Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell, and I'm delighted to say our special guests, former Clydebank and Hamilton Accies and a host of other clubs, the legend that is Jerry McCabe, is here with us. So it's great that we've got two really skillful people in the studio, a goalkeeper and an assassin. It's the only thing I can use to describe Alison, because she's having a tortuous week, Ruffy, throwing out columns on PLZ Soccer, and everybody's got it in for her.
Well, I think she's just getting a wee bit, what's that now?
Above her station.
Sort of just trying to attract,
attention. An
attention
seeker. There you are. I want to be. Do your column on Argentina for us, will you? Anyway, Ali's here as ever, giving you opinion, because that's what it's all about on the programme. You'll get an opinion, some you like, some you don't. Hit the subscribe button if you can. If you get the bell, hit that as well, and you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content. We're covering Scottish football, looking at the English Premier League, European football as well, and it's a big week. Obviously, tonight, it won't be too long before Rangers kick off in the Netherlands against PSV Eindhoven. So from that point of view, we'll not dwell too much on it, other than the fact that everybody, I think, is hoping that Rangers can do the business, but they're up against it, Ruffy.
Yeah, they certainly are. I think we were all hoping they could go over there and take something with them, even if it was a goal, that of advantage. But they're in a dilemma now because they've got to get that goal. They've got to get it, and I said the other night there, I just hope that they don't get it first, because if they get it first, Rangers have got to change it. They've got to change their tactics. They've got to come out and try and get something. So if they were to get a goal first, I think they would be a good footing, because they've shown in Europe that they can defend. They can defend and make it hard for teams, but this team have got 2 or 3 quality players, so it's going to be a hard shift.
Yeah, I think the overriding story, which seems to have overtaken everything that Rangers are trying to do to secure group stage European football in the Champions League, Jerry, is the fact that there is a player who many feel he's let his teammates down. That's Alfredo Morelos. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has come out and said, look, he's not fit, not in the right frame of mind, he's not coming.
Well, I think nobody knows better than Gio, and I think that's the way he's looked at it. And I know they're saying he's come out and consulted the more experienced players, but I think he's made his mind up, and I think the players know that as well. I mean, this is a guy who's got a great record in Europe, top goal scorer, and Rangers need a player like Morelos, especially getting into Europe. So I think he's looked at the situation saying, well, look, why take him if he's not fit and he's up and he's not, whatever he's doing, whatever's happening behind the scenes. I think, it's a blow to Rangers because I've not got a fit Morelos. So, but I think Gio maybe saying to himself, well, look, I could get really, come in for a lot of criticism for taking a guy over here that's not fit. And I think he's trying to send a message out to him, get your head right and you'll be in the team.
Yeah, what's it like from a player's perspective if you've got somebody who is talented but derails the squad? How can that affect them?
It affects the squad, and at the end of the day, you have to think more of the team than you have one individual. And that's the problem, with Morelos. He's this player, you know what he's got, but he's got this self-destruct button. And I think that over the last few weeks, I know he had the injuries and he's got a chance to come back. Against Hibs, he's saying, well, he needs to get up to match speed, and he gets himself sent off. So they're looking at that and they're saying, well, look, is he more a liability to us right now, and if his head's not right, I think Gio's done the right thing. Just don't include him in the squad.
Yeah, and in many ways, it's almost replicating the dilemma, not quite to the same degree where Celtic eventually cut the cord with Lee Griffiths, but it's the same dilemma. Overweight, not in the right frame of mind, not applying himself correctly as a professional.
Absolutely, I think the parallels are very clear, and I think even right down to the motivational social media quotes, that I think belong in the walls of teenage girls up and down the country. But
just to pick up on that, Ali, that quote you're talking about is his Instagram. Yeah. He's put out, he was photographed in a gym in Glasgow. This is after the horses bolted, by the way, and Gio's ostracised him from the team, but he's put out a quote on social media: the best warrior is not the one who always triumphs, but the one who fearlessly returns to battle.
It's nonsense. It really is. It's just nonsense. I think you have to go and prove yourself way before it gets to that point. And there's still time. I think you can come back from this, but I think it's very strong management, and I think it's the right thing to do from Van Bronckhorst to say, I'm not accepting this kind of standard. It's a dip in the bar that I've set for the club. I think you can't afford to make an exception for one player, regardless of what he offers when he's fit and available. I think you have to draw a line and say it's unacceptable, and it's up to him now to go and prove that he can get himself back fit and get into the right frame of mind, because I think he's looked frustrated. I think his body language hasn't been good when he came on against Hibs. He had a kick out before he had the arm up. He could have been cited for what he'd done previous to that. He's not in the right frame of mind, and he's a liability with the way he is just now. Yeah,
the other dilemma from this on and off the park, Ruffy, is financially for Rangers, depending on what happens tonight, financially, there's £40 million, and that's just a rough estimate when you take into consideration the 3 home games, the merchandise, the television cameras there, the group stage attraction of playing, your Category A European clubs. All of that in the mix could be gone because Giovanni van Bronckhorst has had to really kind of take one of his main pieces of ammunition out of the fray long before this as well.
Yeah, well, the board exactly know what the money's involved in this. They'll have done the numbers. The players themselves will just want to compete against the top clubs in Europe. They want to test themselves against the better players and the better teams. That's what their target will be. But they've got a dilemma now because they've got a player at the top of his game might be worth £50 million, and he's running down his contract.
Yeah.
At the end of it, if he throws the dummy out the pram and does a Bobo Baldi, Rangers are getting another £15 million hit because he'll walk away at the end of his contract. So that's something they've got to assess as well. Can they get him back on board because they know that the worth he is to the club? So there's lots of money riding on everything.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, I've just checked Charlie Adams' website. He's at 38 million now. Charlie, Charlie decides all our transfer fees, by the way. He's only worth 38, and if this insubordination continues, he drops to 37.5 million. I know Charlie watches the show now from Deep Lytham, but nevertheless, the point that Giovanni van Bronckhorst has basically highlighted to the press is what happens next is up to Morelos.
I think he has to show, and not only, he should show me he wants to play for Rangers. I know he wants to play, but to play for Rangers, you need to have a certain level, mentally, physically. And at the moment, I think he's not ready to play.
He really just basically has to apply himself.
Yeah, I mean, I told you away at the beginning of the season, Partick Thistle played Rangers in a bounce game over at their training pad, and you could tell then he is an isolated guy. He's one of these individuals who just wants to be by himself. He wasn't sitting with the players. He wasn't eating with the players. He was eating himself. So he is a different breed for a lot of players, but you're right, you've got to have him fit, you've got to have him playing, you've got to have him scoring goals. And it was interesting, a couple of quotes as well, that some of the senior players, he confided in them, Gio, and they're not happy either. And if you've not got, as Jerry said, if you've not got a happy dressing room because one guy's hanging about, no bother on his backside, then you've got a problem. You have to go with the majority, and sometimes you have to make that decision. But the decision I just said there is a financial one because he's worth so much money to the club.
Well, me and Ruffy were talking before we go on air about another player. We're talking about, if you want to move away from the club, if you feel it's time to get a move, you've got to play to get a move. Managers don't just look at, he's got a talent, is he this? They look at his full attitude, his mentality. What is he like? Is he, does he go in a huff? Does he want to, does he get this bad attitude? And I think, Morelos he'd built up this reputation, how good a player he was, but as I said, he always had this other side of him. And now, if he really wants to get away, and whether his agent's working behind the scenes, you don't know. Usually agents are in somewhere. He's got to apply himself. It's sad that for Gio van Bronckhorst, what he's got to do tonight, because he's left himself, he's only got one striker.
Yeah.
And show that, and I think what he's done, and I think he'll be proved right for making the right decision. Whether they go out tonight, if they go through tonight, then Gio's, everybody's, he's a hero. If they go out tonight, people will be looking at the real situation, but at the end of the day, I think he's made the right decision because it's so important, this game. Everybody's got to be focused. Everybody's got to be switched on to this. They know the financial rewards of this game, getting through the Champions League proper, and especially with your biggest rivals who are guaranteed this money right now. And that could be, the decision is just want to concentrate, and he feels the players it can do the job for him.
Yeah. Is it a get out of jail card? Because if this all goes pear-shaped, tomorrow Morelos' name will not be worth tuppence.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I think, but at the same time, I think he had no other choice. I really don't. I thought James Tavernier was very interesting. The immediate aftermath of the game at Easter Road on Saturday, you could tell that he was furious at Morelos. You could tell, and that was the first indication that you can see that there are senior and key figures in the dressing room that are upset about it. I think he's been left with no choice but to exclude him, and I agree with you. I think if Rangers go out tonight, then I think the ire towards Morelos, he'll shoulder a significant part of the blame for it.
Yeah, and the options, as Jerry highlighted there, Ruffy, Cholak, to be fair to the boy, 4 goals in 7 appearances, he's done really well.
Yeah, he'll just be getting out and concentrating, and getting goals. He'll not be worrying about what's happening elsewhere. It's all about him getting out there. He could be the hero tonight. He could be the guy who scores the goals that take Rangers through, and it'd be good for the start with him. Every striker coming into any club needs to score goals, and that's what they bought him for, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the figures. I love it sometimes. There's always a journal. I don't know, sometimes when you all sit in the morning meeting and the last thing you want to hear from your boss, Ali, is you concentrate on the stats, on the figures that could be rewarded here for making the group stages. And then, I don't know about you, but my heart just used to go, oh no, here it goes. So Celtic, the way it's looking at the moment, we're estimating about 40 million in the kitty. It's also based on, over a period of 10 years, your contribution in European football coefficient, the lot is the breakdown of the money. Then there's the television money, and all of that suddenly gets you to a point where, with your own stadium, Celtic have got 10,000 greater numbers inside the stadium than Rangers, but it's anywhere between 33 and 40 million is dispensed to both clubs, which is huge.
It's not just huge for Celtic and Rangers either, it's also huge for Scottish football, because there's a kickback.
Yeah.
There's money that's then redistributed down through other clubs.
Well, we spoke to David Martindale yesterday, and that's when he said Rangers and Celtic in the Champions League, suddenly Motherwell, Livingston, everybody gets a right good check.
Everyone benefits. If Rangers go out tonight, I think Celtic's kitty's in hand to pay about £3 million too. Need to double check that that's the correct figure, but Celtic's hand is financially strengthened by Rangers' exit too, by everything that happens, and the distribution of cash that comes from participation. But there is no question that it's highly lucrative, and that is it's game changing when you get to the end of the season, when you're talking about budgets for transfer players, for salaries, for reinvesting into the infrastructure of your club. I think it's monumental. I think what you saw this summer was Celtic not selling anyone, not having to think. Right, there's a player there that you can cash in on. That I think there would never be a public saying of it, but I think if Celtic don't qualify for the Champions League, I think there's always an inevitability that one big player goes to offset that financial loss. They've been in a position this summer where they didn't have to do it. And I think there's absolutely no question just that the money's game changing when it comes in.
Before I get Jerry and Ruffy's thoughts on this, I just want to come back to you in one particular point, which I think will really change the landscape short term, because I think the leagues over the next decade will change. I think there's going to be some kind of European league or some kind of thing that satisfies the big clubs. I think it's inevitable, no matter how hard everybody works at it. But with this new deal coming up, the UEFA, to try and stem the flow of unrest in the background from the greedy clubs, the Real Madrids and Barcelonas who are in big debt,
bigger slice of the pie.
They've done a deal with America. So basically the rights will allow American television companies to show Champions League as well. So there's even more money in the kitty. So 40 million at the moment is one thing. It's going to increase again by the amount of money that they've sold the rights in this deal to America. It's the equivalent of the English Premier League selling the deal to China that brought in so much money over a short period.
Yeah, I think so. I think you know how lucrative it is at the minute, and I think there's always avenues. You saw what happened a few seasons ago when teams tried to break away to form this very small European Super League format. I think that's never gone away. I think it's always bubbled in the background because you have big clubs looking to maximise their income and cut it off. I think they're looking to ring fence it for themselves. I think there will be movement. A European league in some format we've spoken about this for years and years. I don't know if it ever will come to fruition, but I think certainly there could be changes to the format of the competition, of the Champions League and the other European tournaments.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say in my lifetime because it always offends Ruffy because he thinks he's going to speak to God in the next year, Mr. Doom and Gloom.
I thought he was God.
so did I. The one thing I was going to say to you, Ruffy, I mean, it's not just us. You know, sometimes we can be insular in our thinking and thinking, oh, look at that league there, it's Celtic and Rangers. But it's Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's Ajax or PSV. You look at the leagues, it's Juventus or maybe Inter or AC, depending on how
Barca, Real Madrid, it's the same everywhere.
It's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so eventually, Jerry, they get greedy.
Yeah, of course.
And then sometimes through, you know, and I was going to say sometimes it's through no fault of their own, but through their fault, they spend way more than they're getting in.
Look at the situation Barcelona got themselves in. You know, what happened the last 2 seasons with obviously Messi and that leaving. But you look at it now, you've got the Europa Conference, you know, and that's them opening another competition for teams who fall out the Europa League to go into that. And, you know, it's just to get finance again for clubs, you know, because like for Celtic and Rangers or say it was an Everton or something like that, if they're in that, you know, they know that the fans are going to come out to watch it. It doesn't matter, you know, it's down maybe the Stage 3 Cup, whatever they want to call it. They're going to get the finances coming in because they want to go at the game because it's classed as a European competition.
Yeah.
And you look at Roma won it last year, and I watched the Roma game the other day there, and I'm looking at, you know, the crowds they get, unbelievable. And, you know, Mourinho's won another cup for them and that. And are they happy with that? You know, Roma, I think they finished about 6th last year, but they go and win that Conference Cup.
Yeah.
And obviously that's generated some amount of finances for them as well.
Yeah, and that finance, Ruffy, will trickle down here for one club in particular. Hearts game tomorrow night could be the £7 million, £8 million ticket for them. It's just, I just think it's massive. That's why I'm so hoping that they win the game.
It's amazing the turnover at Hearts. If I think back to a few years ago when they were at the game, administration and the fans all got on board. Apart from Rangers and Celtic, I think they're possibly the best run club in Scotland. You know, everything they've done behind the scenes with Anne Budge and the way they've kept all the supporters on board. They're 18,000 at games, you know, which are absolutely incredible. And it will just put them again into a bracket that they probably haven't been in before. Alison's talked about they maybe go and attract guys who were maybe on 4,000 or 5,000 and maybe go for the 8,000 player. They'll be able to spend money, they'll be able to bring in better quality, and we hope they qualify. I mean, and Ali touched on it, the spin-off. I remember when we were in the Premier League, I'm sure the handout was 350,000.
Yeah.
For Rangers and Celtic.
Yeah. And it'll be considerably more now.
Yeah, it was just thrown into the pot, you know, and I was absolutely wow.
Yeah.
You know, and that'll filter down all the leagues. All the leagues will get something.
They'll get something. It's, you know, finances we can't, you know, turn around and say, well, if we get it, we get it. You know, we don't. You're right. I think we were at Dundee as well, roughly, and I think it was about £350,000. You know, the filtered down to other clubs. Celtic Rangers qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah,
you're right. As it's massive, you know, finances. We can't compete. You know, we can't compete. Maybe first division clubs in England. You know, never mind the Premiership or the Championship. And that's the way Scottish football is. But you know, I think it's $3 million you get if you win the league up here. You get 190 million if you get relegated down there. So
yeah, exactly.
So when you look at it that way,
the disparity is unbelievable. But just on that, Ruffy, I mean, you mentioned there how well run Hearts is. You know, they've got the fans on side and everything. Did you never think maybe the Partick Thistle board should maybe copy Hearts and just ask
copy their module?
Hello, Anne, can we have your blueprint?
As you know, Hearts are our parent club. We like to help each other out and stick together.
On the WhatsApp group, there you go. How's it going, Anne? We'll get them back eventually. Who have you got on the list?
Let's not forget, we were the two clubs that were showing the door. So memories there.
Yeah, could you brush the chip? It's just his left shoulder there's KB. He never forgets.
Just the one shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. You've summed it up perfectly.
What I was saying, and I also was saying, you know, it's Hearts could go into a bigger market next year and attract a bigger player, a better player, and that's what's all down to finances. You know, we're talking about what they can offer down in England. If Hearts could go in, you know, the top league in Scotland and offer somebody about roughly was saying £8,000 a week, something like that. You know, you'll attract a better player.
And a guarantee of European football.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
And as Alison said, they fall into the category of Celtic. You don't have to sell your players because you've got the money. You know, you can keep all your best players. You're not at the end of the season going, oh, there's Suter away to Rangers. You know, you get them on good wages and they all want to stay. They don't want to leave. So that's the other side of it.
Yeah, you're out and about, Jerry, watching lots of matches across Scotland. What about the standard in the Premiership?
Well, again, we're talking about Celtic and Rangers are always going to be up there because the finances have got. Hearts, the Hibs bringing back Boyle, things like that. You know, they need to try and be in there because I want to get in these European places. I was at the Kilmarnock and Celtic game. I was disappointed in Kilmarnock. You know, I thought they'd had a go and made a game of it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking to get some decent players. Still got guys like Mackenzie and that there.
We think the
Ash
big
Taylor.
problem there is there are no goals in them.
That's the problem, you know. Lafferty was coming away deep, and he was wanting to play away deep. He wasn't the focal point that they needed up there. But I think probably because he wasn't seeing much of the ball. But I think, you know, these clubs have got to have a go, especially at home. They've got to go and show their fans, like, okay, we're not going to sit back and let Celtic and Rangers dictate when they come here. We need to get. They got a point out. That's a great point. But even make an impact in the game.
I counter that by saying, and Ali and I will watch it. We'd love to see teams have a go at Celtic and Rangers. There's one team that I do think, out with, you know, your Hearts and your Hibs, who can do that, and Aberdeen. But once you hit the lower half, there's only one team that I think has a go and mixes it with them and tries the high press, and it's Livingston.
Nothing, yeah.
You know, Livingston can take a scalp or two. Celtic and Aberdeen and the Hibs last season finished 7th in the table, but for a couple of things that went against them, you know, they would have been the top half. But the other clubs will say, "Yeah, wait a minute, if we have a go at Celtic and Rangers, we're going to get picked off. This could be 6 or 7, and a 6 or 7-0 hammering has an effect 3-4 weeks down the line because you're trying to drag your players out the gutter."
You still get picked off, you know, but have a go. You get a wee go, and you're right. But Livingston, and I've been impressed with them the last few seasons. You know, the results they've had and the way they've changed. The team they've lost players, brought players in. They all seem to fit in.
Yeah.
You know, and they're
not
actually,
a long ball game.
They're a middle of the table team.
Yeah.
They're not a team that's going to be fighting relegation, I don't think, anyway. Whereas they were, you know, for a lot of years, any time they come up. But now they believe, and they say, right, this is we'll be going to play. This is what's going to not just keep us in the league, we may get a chance to get into the top 6.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to approach it. And if Livingston can do it with the finances they've got, you know, they'll get a big, you know, following crowd-wise. But, you know, they went out and they're actually an addition to the SPL, and they're fixing the SPL now.
They're an addition. I hate their pitch.
You know, our pitch is terrible. I just don't agree with.
I mean, that's fine for me and you in a Sunday at a celebrity match where we can all stand dance on the AstroTurf. But come on,
across the way.
Yes,
you know,
well, if you want to keep playing side passes, that's up to you. I'm trying to get us forward.
We'll get any runners anyway, Peter. And I can't do it.
Well, that's because their midfield's get no hips. But on that point, you know, I'm not going to be two-faced to him. I told him I don't like his pitch. I think if I gave him £1 million, David Martindale, he'd buy a grass pitch.
I think he would, you know.
Might take players first, but he'd buy a grass pitch.
I think for our top, I can understand the team in the lower divisions, you know, finances they use them, you know, at night, and other teams train them, blah, 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 things like that. But come back to your point about the standard. Yeah, I think Jimmy Goodwin's trying to bring in some more decent players. You know, he had a disappointing season last year. In fact, I think it was 10th Aberdeen finished, a club like Aberdeen. So it just shows you, if you don't try and bring in better players, and if you don't try and improve what you've got, you know, you're going to be languishing down there. And there's always going to be a gap, Celtic and Rangers and the rest of them. Ruffy was saying about Hearts. You know, they'll try and close the gap, whether they do close the gap. But it's not just about Hearts. You know, there are 3 or 4 teams going and challenging and taking points off Celtic and Rangers. And
yeah, I'd love to see that. I want to see a situation, you know, I mean, a few of the boys, it was great on our feed on YouTube, where quite a few of them absolutely battered me because I suggested that Liverpool would do Manchester United in 4-1. But I was left with the egg in my face. But the fact remains, and it goes back to the thread that we were talking about earlier, Ali, which is quite simply, if you have a team ethic rather than an individual. Eric Ten Hag said, well, Maguire's got to be dropped because he's he's just having a nightmare. Ronaldo's got to be dropped because he wanted to play a high press with an energetic side, and he's not part of it. So he was thinking of the team.
I think it's so important. I think the collective will always trump any individual, and I think you need that if you're going to be successful. I think you need a camaraderie within your team, a spirit, a spine within the side. I think you need everyone on board with what you're trying to do, and I think when you don't have that and it only takes one person to buck against it, I think you have a toxicity within the squad, within the dressing room, and I think it spreads. I think it's a kind of thing you just want to dismiss altogether. I always remember actually many years ago when Brendan Rodgers had first come up to Celtic one day, he kept us all back up at Lennox Town one Friday, and he showed us a presentation that he gave to the players on his first day. And he had everyone colour categorised, so he was saying to them, like, what colour are you going to be, where do you fit here? And so you'd maybe have, I can't remember the exact colours, but you'd maybe have, like, you know, green is your good attitude, you're receptive to new ideas, you're a good teammate, you take criticism, blah blah blah, all the way down like to maybe red, where you grumble about everything, you complain about everything, you're moaning to your colleagues about things. If you're not in the team, you're disruptive. And it was fascinating, all these different categories of, this is what I'm here to observe in my opening few sessions. I want to see what your mentality is, what your approach is, and I make a judgment about my team on that. It's fascinating, but I think it shows you quite clearly you need to have everyone on board with what you're trying to do.
Well, psychologically, and this is what, you know, again, when we look at, Ruffy and I were talking about to David Martindale yesterday, but every manager does it eventually. Technology's coming in, so we know how far they run, we know how much energy they've got left in their body, but overall there is still that element where, you know, David Martindale said, yeah, but if he's a good player or he's doing something on the park, I'll still watch him and I'll let my eyes decide. I'll not look at a graph, I'll still look and let my eyes decide.
You know, it's again, you know, it's a modern day football. You got it's the sports scientists come in and this is what you do. It's all right. All the past, you know, a ratio. He passed 80 passes he had and 78 were on. You know, it could be a 2-yard pass.
Well, absolutely.
Is it a telling pass? Is that pass is going to create something? You know, and what you were saying there, Gary Neville had done something about the Man United players he brought in. There was the green players who, you know, came and made an impact, you know, and were value for money. Then in the amber, then in the red, and the majority of them in the red. And they're saying, this is Man United, the money they've spent. But I feel players, it's down to players themselves.
Yeah.
Players, how far do you want to go in your career? What level do you want to play in your career? You know, I mean, you're playing at the top. I know the finances, the awards are great, but it shouldn't be just where they've got all the money they need.
Yeah,
it's about achieving, going winning things, go and show that I'm the best.
You want a hunger,
I'm the best. A hunger and desire about you.
That's a great idea. You're testing players now. They've all got all the money in the world, but you're testing them. He's got a better colour than me.
Yeah.
You know, and I want that colour.
Well, like, Morelos is in the red right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Pogba was always in the red for me. He's
for me as well, Peter.
I would walk into a ground and I'd go, right, okay, Brian, I'm selling you. If I can get you out that door quickly. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson had him nailed even when he was there first time around. I'd blow him right out the door.
It's a pressure thing, you know, and it goes way back to the school days when the person next to you was getting gold stars and all that, and you were getting nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at books full of them. You know, you're going, come on.
You had to turn up. You had to turn up to school, roughly, to get there.
You had to go to the teacher's desk and pinch your cup.
Absolutely. And again, you're right about that graph, Jerry, because it's something that I've done on a regular basis. Ali, is I've showed the graph to the Dukla Pumpers manager, and I said, look, Jerry's 78% completion, but we can't keep going sideways and taking a throw in at the halfway line. We've got to go forward. Anyway, it's a great point that you make. I mean, just an insight into the players. Who's going down then? Because obviously everybody picks Celtic or Rangers based on the top end, but Ruffy's gone Kilmarnock. I think St Johnstone, even although I think I might have egg in my face because I'm looking, he's got squad players coming back that he needs.
St Johnstone.
Ali's gone St Johnstone.
Right now I'm looking, I hope I'm wrong, because at the time I had it, Kilmarnock for me, like, and they need to get points at home. They need to start producing at home, because I think they'll struggle away from home.
Yeah.
The grass, because they train. And as I say, I hope I'm wrong. I might come in for a bit of criticism of the Kelly fans, but what I saw a couple of weeks ago, There's really nothing to offer. I know they're coming up against Celtic, but they go up to Ross County and they lose at the weekend as well. You know, they're down.
But Ross County are a good side.
I'm not taking that away from Ross County, but I'm saying they're down to 10 men, and they couldn't even come away with a point.
Yeah.
You know, and what I've seen, I've seen this in Johnson. I've just seen highlights, but I know they've been struggling. But Callum had turned it around a wee bit. I think I've got to go with Kilmarnock right now.
Yeah, okay. It's all opinions. That's what it's all about. You can give us your opinion. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell as well, and join us on the Football Family. Thank you to thousands and thousands of you downloading the podcast. We really appreciate you. Maybe just walking around the park, Ruffy. They've got the AirPods in
more often now, yeah.
And they're listening to the stuff as well, and getting back to us. And thank you. Please do, if you've got some time. I know Ruffy's been talking to a few people on the golf. Ruffy obviously gets a great chance to play golf 6 days a week, with tennis 5 days, and then bowls 2 days a week.
Fit as a fiddle, that guy.
Absolutely. It's just a pity that he has to come in here. What an imposition we're putting on him for an hour. But if you've got a man cave, send us the pictures, because Ruffy, somebody
Ian,
that you were out playing golf with, he sent us a man cave pictures. I did have a look at them and I thought, oof, he sent us about 20 of them. But what a man cave it is. I'm going to put it on tomorrow.
Yeah, I was invited down to his opening night.
Did you go to the man cave?
Yeah, I was in the all.
Don't tell us anything about it. Just
No. All the golf boys went down. We were invited for an official opening, and
his man cave.
His man cave, yeah, cutting the tape and everything.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate what I've seen it. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, he spent a lot of money on it. And by the way, can I just say something? Because obviously there are people out there who are waiting to be professionally offended, you know, in the woke culture, you know, that there are women caves as well. Can I just say to you, because Alice, well, come on, I know you're Joe Normal, you know, but there are people who think, oh, just man caves, is it? You've got a women cave as well, haven't you?
A women cave.
Yours looks great. You spent but that, you can't hide money, to be honest with you. Yours is an absolute belter, isn't it? The kids are all using it too now, aren't they?
But is that not how they built man caves? Because they couldn't get watching the TV in their own house? They only used to take the remote control.
Yeah. Twitter, at Jerry McCabe. Steam in, bomb in. No, it's just absolutely brilliant. Yours is brilliant as well. I had a great man cave until, obviously,
Your wife said no.
I had to turn into an office. But nevertheless, send the pictures in. We'll try and put so many of them up. We really do enjoy you looking at them. I mean, the boy who sent in the one with all the horror memorabilia was just fantastic, wasn't it? By the way, as I try to get more and more people to join the show, Ruffy's just said that was a bit creepy.
No, it was different. It was different for everybody else. It just shows you there's variations of a cave.
Yeah,
This was creepy.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, Jerry, I can't remember who the boy was that sent it in, but here's the man cave. I mean, it's an absolute belter. I mean, there's a guitar in a coffin. There's a bust there of Kiefer Sutherland in Lost Boys, which was that horror movie from the 80s, which was a brilliant one. There's actually a bust of It. Do you remember It?
Yeah.
Stephen King.
There's a theme here.
The clown.
There's a definite theme of
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few other unsavoury items, but they're all memorabilia. If you like horror, the horror genre, you like the horror genre, Ali. Is that fair?
That's fair enough.
I thought you were talking about, is it no Cousin It? Was it the Addams Family?
Cousin It was the Addams Family. Actually, just you and Ruffy chat to each other about 1950s TV in America, by the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you've got man cave, send us in the pictures. We'd love to see them. Over and above that, we're talking about the standard, and you've obviously said you think Kilmarnock. The standard of football, I think there's a real demand for it. Obviously, we want to see Rangers and Celtic Champions League and the calibre of teams. I mean, if you look at the pots from the Champions League that are coming up, you guys, it's just amazing. I mean, Ali, in pot 1, Real Madrid, Eintracht Frankfurt, Man City, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, PSG, Porto and Ajax. That's pot 1. Pot 2, Liverpool, Chelsea, Barcelona, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Seville, Leipzig, Tottenham. Pot 3 is Borussia Dortmund, Salzburg, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter Milan, Napoli, Sporting Lisbon and Bayer Leverkusen. And bearing in mind that we're waiting on the others to qualify, pot 3 and 4 still to be formalised.
It's formidable though when you read off the list like that. the challenge is absolutely extraordinary for the likes of Celtic to go in and try and compete against that, or Rangers if they're to qualify. I think you look at pot 1 and pot 2 and it is just the heavyweights of European football. You know, I think on one hand it will be exciting for supporters to see teams of that calibre come, but on the other hand I think it can be very sobering as well. I think Celtic's last participation in the Champions League there were a few really bruising results. You think of that 7-0 over in the Nou Camp and 7-1 against PSG, 5-0 at home. I think their heaviest ever home European defeat. So I think there's no such thing as a free lunch in the tournament. I think it's all very well to talk about the money that it brings in, but once you're in it, I think you want to go and compete and try and.
That's what John Kennedy said. He said that he felt as if, you know, there's a real difference between Celtic and Rangers when they play. Not Rangers in the last couple of seasons, may I add, because they really have stepped up to the plate. But with Celtic, you know, you get away with the odd misdemeanour at home domestically, but they were absolutely exposed in Europe.
Yeah, I think so, and I think obviously the style of play, it was a fairly open setup of trying to go and attack and take something from the game, and obviously you know, they were really found culpable at elements. I think there's a risk whenever you're playing opposition of that calibre that can happen. I think it's quite interesting. Ange Postecoglou has spoken repeatedly of his, you know, he's allergic to any form of pragmatism. He doesn't want to be pragmatic. He wants to go out and attack and be truthful to his own philosophy. But I think it'll be interesting to see just how he sets up. If he maybe goes with two almost holding midfielders just to give a bit of protection to the back line.
That's an interesting one, Jerry. I mean, I think the one of the newspapers, will he play Ange ball in Europe because it could get found? I mean, Ruffy and I were working at the Barcelona Celtic game. We were commentating on it like this, because basically when we eventually looked through our fingers, it was 6, and then in the 7th one went in, the two of us looked at each other and thought this could be 10-0.
Yeah, I think he's got to change, definitely in Europe. I remember Brendan Rodgers done the same when he went over to Barcelona. I'll match Barcelona, I'll play my game. And you know what happened there, he destroyed. And I think Ange's got to learn from that. You know, it's okay, as you say, it's domestic, he'll get away with it. Not in Europe. I think he's got to have two sort of teams he's going to play in Europe. The way he's going to play away from home. You know, they're in there just to make up the numbers. They want to be playing in this competition year in, year out, but they want to be proven year in, year out. They don't want to just be in there and saying, okay, if I finish third or finish fourth, get into the Europa League. No. Celtic have qualified for the, you know, later stage before. I think Lenny's the only one that's really been in there with Celtic and European, and I think he's thought maybe more about it.
Yeah,
this is what I've got to do.
The 2-1 against Barcelona.
Yeah, I think he's got to do it, but I think I've got to, you know, be realistic here, what I'm coming up against. And I think if Ange gets in, great, at Parkhead, the fans will want him to go and play that way. They want him to go and attack and try and get a result. I think the opposition, you know, it's all quality opposition you're coming up against. I think he's got to look at it and be more wiser, more streetwise, so to speak. And I think the players have got to, he has to have the players, this is what we're doing in this game, this is the way we want to play in this game. And is it right now, you know, I don't think he's got a plan B.
Yeah, so for the benefit of people, and I'm not being in any way facetious here, but for the benefit of younger people who maybe didn't see you play, and Ruffy and myself, to a lesser extent, maybe Ali, but certainly lucky enough to see you strut your stuff. You know, I love skillful players, and you had that in abundance. But the other thing that you could do as well was you could see a pass. And I think, you know, the one real difference that I see in the English Premier League every week and I see in European football every week is, apart from anything else, there are players who are brave on the ball, who go forward. And see in the final third, Jerry, they don't look to try and play it across the 18-yard box. They're looking for triangles in behind. Yeah. There's a runner from midfield going beyond the striker. You know, they don't care if teams sit in. They work out ways to go forward and pick them off, and they don't take 2 touches. They're so secure in their knowledge of their ability.
They see it.
You can see it.
If you look at De Bruyne, the ball he put through to Bernardo Silva for the goal against Newcastle. Yeah. And but that's him, they're saying, how does he see that? Because he's confident in his ability, because he's a great passer of the ball. Yeah. And he believes, you know, and he sees things early. But the run makes a pass. And all I was saying, you mentioned the word here, brave. People would say brave. I don't understand that word in football, brave. I'm saying, I think it's more about having belief and confidence in your ability to get on the ball and want to create something, want to go and do something. I'm going to try and win the game for us. I'm going to try, you know, create a pass that's going to, put one of our strikers in. And I've always said it's all about belief in yourself and ability. And you look at these guys, and the top players can do it. Yeah. You says they don't take 2 and 3 touches. They'll see the pass early. Yeah. And they're always still on the move. You watch De Bruyne when he plays a pass or something, and Messi was always doing it. As soon as they pass the ball, they're always on the move. They don't stand still. They want to know. They want to get the next one. They want to get the next pass, and that separates the top quality players from the ordinary players for me.
We noticed that at Hibs with Scott Allen. Scott Allen would.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Allen, the problem there was Scott Allen could see a pass, but nobody else could see the pass that he saw. So he was making the pass, and people were going, "Woof." No anticipating what he was doing. He was away ahead of what they were doing. So that can be a problem if you've not got players on the same thing with you.
That's what I was saying, Rolf. It's players. They know sort of a type of player you are, and if they make that run, they'll give you. The top players will see that. They'll see that pass, and they keep making that run. They're not getting it, and then they stop making that run.
Yeah, and Gascoigne can do that for fun.
No, it's the top players.
Just magnificent. It's interesting you saying that, Robbie, because I saw something in social media, an interview with Michael Owen. And he said he joined Real Madrid, and he said he couldn't believe it. He says, if the ball's coming to me, he says, although I was confident in my technical ability, I would be controlling it and then looking for the pass. He says, but the ball came to Zidane. He said he already knew where the ball was going, so he let the ball come across. And he kept the ball moving with his body rather than the chest to bring it down. Yeah. He kept the ball moving with his body, chested it into an area, and seamlessly played the pass. Yeah. There's different levels of it, and we enjoy talking about it and love talking about footballers at that level.
Did you see? I don't know if you've seen the PSG game at the weekend against Lille, and they centred the ball. They scored within 8 seconds. And I've seen Brentford do a similar centre when they centre the ball. They don't just play it back and play it across the park. The wee boy Verratti, I think Neymar passed it back to Verratti, and Neymar went as if he was going, but he stood still and he played it back into him, and he laid it off to Messi. So that was 1, 2, 3 passes. By that time, Mbappe's up about 25 yards out in there, and Messi just played the ball over the top. One bounce, he's put it over the goalie. 8 seconds. So obviously they've worked at it. Yes. But to how instead he just pass it back from the kick-off and
launch it.
Yeah, but they had 3 passes and he was in, 8 seconds.
Which is a joy. Brilliant. And the fact that you're watching PSG Lille tells me, Jerry, there are clubs where people go out and meet each other and have a right good laugh. You can play tennis and meet up with your pals again.
Well, I was invited. I could be, maybe I could be your doubles partner now that Peter's out again for a while.
Yes.
He thinks he's going to be back in a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll see. See to get back to that European draw.
Oh, you're dictating the script now?
No, see, we get back to that. When it happens, we're not going to have, they can't go into that group because they come from there and they can't go into that group. But surely if Real Madrid and Barcelona are drawn out, they're in the same group.
They're in pot
1 to 2.
Yeah.
No, Barcelona's in 2, they're not.
Yeah, but Barcelona's in pot 2. But
I know, but surely when it comes, can they be in the same pot? Because when it comes later on, they go, oh no, they can't be drawn against each other and we'll pull them out and all that
geographical things that
rubbish.
It's just pot.
Whoever gets popped out, right.
Yeah, believe me, by the way, I hope you're right on that, Ali, because sometimes it's like a Philadelphia lawyer needs to be able to say, in pot 1, only this team can play against the 3 balls and they have 3 balls from pot 2. Do you follow me?
I think it's just a straightforward.
You think so?
I think so.
Well, we're about to find out because I'll tell you, I think usually what happens is you have, I think it was Gianni Infantino before, he'd stand there and it's a 25-minute, the draw starts at 5 and every Celtic fan will be looking going, and hopefully every Rangers fan's looking and going, and then you start waiting and then they go, okay, there's 3 from this first one and then you can only open 2 from that other one. Honestly, it's a cast of thousands. So I'll wait to see and stand to be corrected, but previously, as Ruffy points out rightly, sometimes they can't be drawn against a club from
their own country
until they get to the quarterfinals.
Or is it not the knockout stages? Is it?
Yeah, no quarterfinals. Yeah, I think it's either last round of 16, quarterfinals, whatever. But I'll wait to be corrected on that. Sometimes the rules can change, Ruffy, but what you're saying there could be the point. But nevertheless, we hope we've got 2 teams in it, and we also hope Hearts are going to defeat FC Zurich. Do you fancy them?
Yeah, I do. At Tynecastle, I think I do. I think the 2-1, I think it's there's definitely an opportunity for them to go. It's not beyond them at all. I think first goal is probably crucial.
Yeah, I fancy Hearts to win.
Yeah, I think so. I think with the crowd behind them, and the atmosphere they generate at Tynecastle, they lost the game. You know, they went 1-0 up. I thought they were quite comfortable. You know, for a wee spell. Then they lost 2 goals.
Really
Quickly.
cheap goals.
Cheap goals. You know, and that's what these European teams can do. You know, but I think if they get the first goal, they can go and win it.
Yeah, Ruffy.
I think they'll win it eventually, but I think it'll be a long night.
All right, okay. As again, quite a lot of us are in an optimistic mood, but Dr. Doom, as ever, extra time and
Come on,
penalties.
on Monday night he didn't fancy them at all.
I know.
So kind of managed to progress.
He's like, do you know what he's like? He's like, as Tony Benn says, you know, are you a signpost or are you a cockerel? You know, some people just move with the wind.
Every day's different.
Just have a signpost and stick with it.
Well, you pick up knowledge every day and you just might just sway another way.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on where the abuse is coming from. Weekend football: Aberdeen against Livingston, Kelly Motherwell, Rangers, Ross County, St Mirren, Hibs. Then it's Dundee United, Celtic, and Hearts and Johnson. Just before we finish, Jerry, it's been a joy getting your insight into not only your football ethos, but some of the players and the teams that you've watched this season. Dundee United, wee bit of trouble. Ryan Edwards reckons that they've got one of the best squads in the country. It doesn't say that in the league table.
No, I've got to prove it. You know, they brought in obviously the experience at back, Mulgrew. They've got Tony Watt, guys like that there.
Yeah.
Fletcher coming in. If Fletcher can stay fit, I think he'll be a good signing for them. They've got a squad of players, but at the end of the day, they've got to go start getting results, start playing as a team, and start. I mean, the result against was it AZ Alkmaar here, and they go over there and get a right bleach, and then they've lost about, I think, another 7 goals since.
Yeah.
So I think Jack, you know, be a bit concerned now. You know, the goals are leaking, but if they get that right, but they've got the players. One result can turn it, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Hearts, St Johnstone, and Dundee United, Celtic on the Sunday. And Ali, you're going to test it to the full tiers. You're going to Kilmarnock Motherwell for us.
I am indeed. It was an interesting one. I think Motherwell have found a wee bit of stability following the appointment of Steve Hamill. Just a couple of big wins for them, I think, after a difficult start to the season. Kilmarnock, I think, I agree with Jerry. I saw them in the first day of the season when they got a point against Dundee United, but I think they'll know they need to start picking up points at Rugby Park.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all about opinions. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and of course you can look back on some of our one-to-ones, and if you missed yesterday, it was certainly worth watching David Martindale and his insight into football. You don't have to be a Livingston fan to watch the gaffer there. He's got really great opinions on other aspects of football as well. Great to have Jerry with us on the couch talking football as ever. We like to bring you special guests on a regular basis. There'll be one-to-ones and some special features that I think you are going to enjoy on PLZ Soccer over the next few months. But from Alison, from Jerry McCabe, from Alan Ruff and from myself, Peter Martin, thank you for watching.